This is CBC Here and Now.
It was like the car was being dragged backward. I was frightened to my near death.
Repair gone wrong. This man says he crashed his vehicle because mechanics used plastic zip ties to keep a car part in place.
Last year was actually one of the worst flu seasons that we've had on record. There were over 2,000 lab-confirmed cases and 743 hospitalizations, both of which were the most we've ever recorded.
The Chief Medical Officer of Health is reminding people to get their shots as cold and flu season begins.
It's a difficult place to not even know if you're going to have a paycheck next year.
Looming cuts at Memorial University have faculty and students concerned. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. A Canadian Tire customer in Clarenville says a routine vehicle service led to a highway emergency after staff used plastic zip ties instead of bolts to hold a key part of his car together, marking the start of a 2-year fight for answers. Go Public's Rosa Marcatelli reports.
So this was the inside corner. This part here is the inside. And this is how it was bent.
You're looking at what's left of a critical part of Travis Jones's Honda Civic after what he says began with a simple oil change at his local Canadian Tire. Jones says he knew something was wrong as soon as he left the shop in May 2023.
It was like the car was being dragged backward. I was frightened to my near death.
Back at the shop in Clarenville, Newfoundland, staff found several metal bolts missing from the protective shield under Jones's car, bolts that are often removed during oil changes. But instead of replacing them, staff used plastic zip ties to hold the metal shield in place.
That was an improper repair from the get-go. There's no two ways about this.
Canadian Tire told Go Public it didn't have the bolts, and the ties were a short-term temporary solution. But Jones says no one told him that. Months later, Jones says some of the zip ties snapped while he was driving at highway speed, the metal cover dropping onto the road, sending him into a ditch.
This time, Rosa, I lost full control. I did have minor injuries.
Canadian Tire offered to cover the damage. First, about $400 for a Honda dealership to replace the bolts, and months later, a few hundred more for damage after the ditch crash. But Jones would have to pay out of pocket first.
They should have been paying Honda directly. They shouldn't have expected me, a customer, to then pay for the repairs that was needed because of their mistakes.
Canadian Tire says each location is individually owned and operated, saying it made several attempts to try and resolve things with Jones and is still open to doing so. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, some programs at Memorial University could be on the chopping block. Enrollment is down again this year, and some staff and students say they're unsure about the university's future. The CBC's Jenna Head reports.
A new university president and a new provincial government signals the start of a new chapter for Memorial University. The province's premier designate has made big promises for paid work terms and tuition reimbursements for students attending Newfoundland and Labrador's only university that is currently struggling to keep afloat.
It amounts to about a $6 million loss of revenue, so that tells you how significant it is.
Those financial losses are a result of decreasing student enrollment, and the university says to fix it, some programs will head to the chopping block, leaving staff and students worried for what's next.
It's a difficult place to not even know if you're going to have a paycheck next year.
President Lisa Morris says members of the Faculty Association working in the humanities are particularly concerned about MUN's upcoming cuts.
That's where we've seen a number of those discontinued contracts, and not just for folks who are, doing that as a stepping stone to other things. A lot of these folks have been working on contracts for 15 or 20 years.
MUN says it is taking a student-centered approach with its cuts, but Morris said program cuts are student cuts.
You can't be student-centered if you're not also worker-centered.
With tuition up, MUN's student union says students are paying more for less.
We might not even be seeing a fully comprehensive university in Newfoundland and Labrador in the next couple of years. And of course, it's really disheartening. The humanities and social sciences will be mostly affected by that.
In a statement from MUN this afternoon, they said they're committed to financial sustainability amid rising cost and declining revenue. At this time, MUN also said there is no plans to cut programs, but they are consulting with leadership and deans of programs to see how things could look going forward. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, 3 people have been charged in relation to a murder investigation in St. John's. The RNC says 2 women and 1 man are charged with accessory after the fact to murder following the shooting death of 33-year-old Gerald Kyle Hines in St. John's in April. The accused are between 18 to 25 years old. Police allege the 3 suspects helped the accused shooter and driver evade arrest. The 3 were released on conditions with future court dates. In April, 19-year-old Ibrahim Hussein was found hiding in the trunk of a vehicle at the ferry terminal in Port aux Basques. He was charged with first-degree murder and a number of firearms offenses. The driver, Hussein, was also charged with accessory after the fact of murder and obstruction of justice. With cold, flu, and COVID season around the corner, the province is starting its annual fall vaccination program today. The Chief Medical Officer of Health says vaccines are safe and effective at keeping people out of hospital. Heather Gillis reports.
I'm just going to clean your arm first.
It's the season to roll up your sleeve and get a shot or 2. Flu and COVID shots are now available to anyone over 6 months old in the province starting today. Free through a public health clinic, the pharmacy, or a family doctor.
Last year was actually one of the worst flu seasons that we've had on record. There were over 2,000 lab-confirmed cases and 743 hospitalizations, both of which were the most we've ever recorded.
Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, the province's chief medical officer, says 23% of people in the province got a flu shot last year. 70% of people admitted to hospital last year with the flu weren't vaccinated. Fitzgerald says most of them were seniors. This year, she'd like to see 80% of seniors get the shot to help keep people out of hospital beds.
And when it comes to last year's COVID season, Dr. Fitzgerald says there were 172 hospitalizations. She says if people were vaccinated, the majority of them could have been prevented.
In fact, if everyone who ended up hospitalized for COVID last year had been vaccinated, we could have prevented 112 of those 172 hospitalizations.
She says only 40% of those admitted had an up-to-date COVID shot. Meanwhile, this pharmacy prof says she knows why vaccination rates are low.
So I think vaccine hesitancy is one of the big reasons to this problem. The other one is vaccine fatigue. Like after the pandemic, we are seeing a lot of vaccine fatigue, and that comes from mandates that were there for vaccinations for a long time. It could be that people are now complacent as well, you know.
Dr. Fitzgerald agrees with that assessment, but still strongly recommends the shots for people vulnerable to respiratory illnesses. Anyone 65 or older, small children, pregnant women, people living with chronic illness, along with healthcare workers and caregivers.
What we really want people to understand is that just because it doesn't affect you badly doesn't mean that it's not going to affect somebody in your life badly if they get it. So
she says people can get both vaccines at once and says the best way to prevent a bad flu and COVID season this year is to get the shot. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
And staying with healthcare news, as of tomorrow, there will be a new option for accessing outpatient services in St. John's. The new ambulatory health hub is opening at the site of the old Costco on Stavanger Drive. NL Health Services offered up a tour of the new facility yesterday.
These doors will be unlocked and patients will be able to just come, swipe, and wait for the automatic opener and then enter into the clinic. It's exciting to see that now Tuesday we're going to have patients walking through the door, and we have a beautiful space here that patients can easily navigate. They don't have the maze of our large and intimidating acute care hospital. So it's awesome, I have to say.
Tell us about some of the services that will be opening here on Tuesday.
So on Tuesday we will have medicine specialty clinics, surgery specialty clinics. We will have total joint assessment and bariatric clinic. We will have audiology. We'll have the eye clinic, orthopedics, and we'll have cardiac diagnostics. Cardiac diagnostics means EKGs, echoes will be done here on site One of the benefits of repurposing an existing building is that you can start on the inside. The outside envelope was already here. But of course, one of the challenges with an existing building is that electrical needs upgrading, mechanical needs upgrading, and certainly Costco didn't need all the different systems that we have here today. So there was a fair bit of construction and renovation that was required. And they added a second floor, which of course Costco didn't have when it existed here. So those were, I'd say, some of the challenges. But one of the successes is that we've revitalized an area in the city that was once kind of the desert town, so which is exciting. And and we've got free parking for patients and staff too, which is a nice perk. So
a number of more services will open up in December. Tell us about those.
So in December, we will have booked ultrasound appointments in our medical imaging department. Our pre-admission clinic will open. We will have physiotherapy and occupational therapy fully open here. And we'll have a pain clinic, which is a new chronic pain service.
How do you feel this will change the healthcare experience for people?
I think this is going to be a much calmer and pleasant experience. Parking isn't going to be the hassle that it is today at the Health Science or St. Clair's. The distance is much shorter for patients. It's, once you get inside the building, it's just straight down the hall, halfway down, turn in, and then everything is just, we have central waiting. That was the whole, one of the focuses of the design was that when the patient is waiting, you can just sit and you can see all the services that are around you on one floor. You come up a floor, you can easily see what's around you up here. So wayfinding and the distance is going to be much improved for patients.
Well, cricket is one of the world's most popular sports, and until recently, the most popular place to play it in St. John's was Kelly's Brook Park. But now the city is telling players they have to take their game elsewhere. Here now, Zach Gowdy reports.
We played cricket here for, at least a couple of hours, and it was very addicting. In fact, it was hard to leave. I would get in trouble with my parents over that, right? Because I would play cricket for a long time, right?
Urtiza Dar says he's been playing cricket here in Kelly's Brook Park since he was a teenager, and that until recently, this was the most popular place in St. John's for a pickup game. But suddenly, the city has put up these signs saying cricket is not permitted in this park. Dar now sits on the board of Cricket NL. He says last summer they heard there were complaints from some pedestrians and nearby residents and claims that cricket balls may have broken a window or two. Cricket NL met with city officials to discuss a resolution, but Dar says the city wasn't interested and wanted cricket out of Kelly's Brook Park. Still, he thought the issue may have gone quiet until the signs popped up.
We didn't see any signs last year, so I thought, okay, maybe they're not going to do it. And now then, when you gave me a call the other day and you told me that they're actually up now, I was like, okay. So it's true that they're going to do it, and they did it, so yeah.
In a statement to CBC News, the city says cricket isn't being singled out, that there have been similar cases of people playing golf in city parks and that signs were erected there. It says because there is no designated space for cricket in this park, that balls were creating a risk of injury to other park users. Now, the area that was being used for cricket is right next to a small baseball diamond. The city does not address how baseball is less risky than cricket in this space, nor does it address the long-standing use of this space for cricket. Back in 2010, I did a story about the growing popularity of cricket that was shot right here in Kelly's Brook Park, on this very spot, in fact. Dar says the growth of cricket is being driven by international students, many of whom are from countries where cricket is a common language. The city does have a designated cricket field, but it's on RCAF Road near the airport, far from the university area, and a long way to go for a pickup game. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
All these runners braved some pretty intense RDF yesterday to compete in the Cape to Cabot race. The 20-kilometer journey sees competitors race from Cape Spear to Cabot Tower. What an impressive feat.
Yeah, certainly seeing, that a little bit of a break from the RDF today. Temperatures definitely warmer through parts of Central as well. 5 degrees warmer in Badger today, Deer Lake, same thing, and up across Labrador, 7 degrees warmer in Nain. That is well above where you should be sitting this time of year. That unseasonably warm temperature is going to continue through the day tomorrow. We'll see some fog patches through tonight, but we will see a break from that RDF. I'll get into all of that a little later.
Advocate Gemma Hickey has long pushed the Vatican to adopt a zero-tolerance policy for clergy abuse in the Catholic Church. And today, the St. John's survivor took their plea right to the top when they and other survivors met with Pope Leo XIV. This meeting comes just days after the Vatican's Child Protection Panel accused senior leaders of being too slow to help victims of sexual abuse. The 200-page report calls for tougher sanctions for abusers and their enablers. Gemma Hickey joins me now from Rome. So Gemma, this must be a really big day for you. Can you tell us about the meeting with the Pope? Where did it happen and what was discussed?
Well, it took place at his office at the Vatican, and he spent an hour with us. And so I'm president of an international organization called Ending Clergy Abuse. And I was with my board colleagues. There were 6 of us in total. And we had a very productive meeting. He's quite funny, down to earth, very humble. And, I started the meeting off with, I wanted to say to him that the world is so polarized right now that the most radical thing we can do is sit down and have a conversation. So I explained to him that trust goes both ways, and I know that this is a risk for him as much as it is for us. And so that set the tone, and he immediately relaxed. So I was really proud of our efforts, and of course I talked about Newfoundland and Labrador, in particular, Mount Cashel Orphanage, Belvedere Orphanage, um, survivors from residential schools in Labrador, and also individuals who've endured clergy abuse. And I gifted him a Newfoundland flag, which was given to me the day that I finished my walk across Newfoundland in July of 2015 by a woman who had 5 brothers in Mount Cashel. Some of them she lost to suicide. And so she wrapped that Newfoundland flag around me, told me I walked hope home to her, and I've taken that Newfoundland flag with me every single time I have traveled to Rome. And so giving it to the Pope today was symbolically my way of passing on all of our stories to him. The stories I've heard from other survivors, the stories I've heard from good priests, nuns, brothers, and also displaced parishioners, because I did bring up how churches are hiding behind bankruptcy and how difficult that is on communities.
That must have been a pretty powerful moment when you handed over that flag. I'm curious how the Pope reacted.
Well, I told him that I was handing him my whole heart. I love our province, and we've been deeply wounded by clergy sexual abuse. I explained to him that this is a dark chapter in our collective past, in many, many pasts, really. And it's not even a matter of it being in the past, because it's an ever-present reality still, and the trauma does haunt us. But at the same time, just because we have a dark chapter in our history doesn't mean that we can't change how the story ends. And so I found the meeting to be quite positive. I'm sure we'll have other ones in the future. And I'm just really proud of, I'm proud to represent my province and country. And there was another survivor colleague of mine from Germany who presented his book, a book that he had written. I thought about that as well, because the Pope is aware that I'm an author. But for me, it's not just about my story, it's about all of our stories. And in some ways, gifting him that flag for me was a way of releasing all of the things that I have carried with me for so long, all of those stories, since I started out on this journey. And they're still with me and on me to this day. And I felt that release in a way by giving him that flag. So it was a sense of pride, but also a release. And he appreciated that gesture and understood. He was quite tender when I put it in his hands.
Well, Gemma Hickey, such a significant day for you. I really appreciate you telling us about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is it just me, or have you noticed that the fall colors this year seem extra vibrant? It's not your imagination. The trees are really showing off. The secret? Perfect weather. Over the summer, we had plenty of warm, sunny days, which helped the trees produce lots of sugar in their leaves. That's the key ingredient for these bright reds and oranges. Then, as fall arrived, we got those crisp, cool nights and beautiful sunny days, and that makes the colors pop. And because we haven't had a whole lot of heavy rain or wind, the leaves are hanging on a little longer than usual. So this year we had the perfect recipe for a spectacular show, and arguably the nicest in many years.
Very interesting, actually. So sugar and sunshine and cooler temperatures all affect the vibrancy of the leaves.
Yeah, and like I said, we had the perfect recipe, and my goodness, they really are showing off.
There are some incredible, incredible trees around town right now.
Yeah, incredible colors for sure. Yeah, we are going to, they felt a little muted though for the last couple of days because we've been seeing the RDF, although much nicer with the colors. Let's take a look at where we sat today temperature-wise and where we should be sitting this time of year. It is quite dramatic, especially up across Labrador. Happy Valley Goose Bay sat around 17 degrees today. Your temperature this time of year should be 5 degrees. And these warm temperatures aren't going anywhere, at least not through tomorrow. We'll eventually see a drop in temperatures, but you're still going to stay quite above where you should be sitting this time of year. And then same thing for the west coast. Now you get towards central and eastern areas of the island, very different story. Still sitting in northerly flow. That's keeping those temperatures a little bit on the cool side. But today will be the last day of that. We actually will see a little bit of a break in the RDF. So 8 degrees today in St. John's. We should be sitting around 10, and we'll be above that as we head through the day tomorrow. There is quite a dramatic change in temperatures, though, especially up across parts of Labrador from where we were sitting yesterday at this time. Nain sitting at 7 degrees warmer, even Badger, Deer Lake, about 5 degrees warmer than where you were sitting yesterday, and right around there for the St. John's area. But yeah, taking a look at the current temperatures right now, down to 6 degrees in St. John. Still a beautiful evening through central west. Well, Grand Falls, Windsor west, let's say that. Deer Lake still sitting at 15 degrees right now. And Labrador just absolutely showing off. 15 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And Makkovik sitting at 14 at the moment. Now, the reason why we saw a little bit of a break in the rain, drizzle and fog today was because, in some areas anyway, because of that ridge of high pressure there. We do have a couple of systems, or at least one system and a couple of fronts that are going to affect the weather up across Labrador. So we are going to see some shower activity, mainly west, but that chance certainly the case. But today you can see where we saw some sunshine through parts of central, but we still have that northerly flow, and that is keeping some fog and some stubborn cloud from moving away. And as we head through the night tonight, we will start to see some of that fog creep back in, likely through the overnight, and it'll be patchy. It won't be that dense, thick fog that we've certainly been seeing for the past little bit. We can see that there on the future tracker. Central areas of the island likely staying just clear for the most part tonight. You may see a few fog patches in the mix, and we may see some drizzle as well, particularly along the south coast and potentially along the strait as well. So keep that in mind. Overall, some shower activity likely moving in by the time we get into tomorrow morning, and that will be the case for Lab West. But temperatures across Labrador are going to stay mild. This is even warmer than where you should be sitting as your daytime highs for this time of year. But yeah, somewhere between 8 and 9 degrees. The island portion of the province and along the strait there, somewhere between 3 and 5, though through central, low-lying areas, you will likely see your temperatures dip to around the 0 degree marker, maybe even a little bit below. That's where we should see the best chance of seeing some clear skies through the overnight, and relatively light winds as well. That's another factor when it comes to that. As we head through the day tomorrow, we'll likely start cloudy, again some fog patches, but as we head into the afternoon, the skies should clear out, particularly through central, and then we see that shift in the winds. That is going to bring the potential for some fog and drizzle and even some showers along the south coast because we'll see those southerly. So that means along the northeast coast, we will see a break. Again tomorrow, Labrador for the most part a little bit unsettled, a mix of sun and cloud, but the shower activity mainly west. And that'll be the first part of the day, and then again in the evening hours as well. More shower activity moving in as we head towards early Wednesday morning for most of the big land. So your temperatures tomorrow, it will be fairly lovely, 10 to 12 degrees across the Avalon through central and west. Your temperatures will be a little warmer in the mid to upper teens tomorrow. Again, those southeasterlies will be gusting around 25 kilometers per hour. South coast a little on the cool side, only between 10 to 12 degrees through the afternoon. Then for Labrador, overall, look at that, 18 degrees in Cartwright tomorrow. That's incredible. But like I said, it'll last a little while longer, but I'll get into long-range forecasts a little later.
Thank you, Ashley. Well, speaking of weather, runners in St. John's braved some very foggy conditions yesterday in a race from Cape Spear to Cabot Tower, a grueling 20-kilometer trek in some less than ideal conditions.
The winner of the 2025 Cape to Cabot, attaboy! Not his first rodeo, that's for sure. How was the run today, Ben?
I was miserable. No, it was a lot of fun. I'm just kidding.
How many times have you done this race now, Ben?
This is my 4th time, yeah.
How many times have you won this race now, Ben?
It's my 2nd time.
And what does it mean to have, I guess that's your little guy there? What does it mean?
This is my nephew.
Your nephew, okay. What does it feel to have your nephew there at the finish line with you?
Oh, it's so exciting. I have such a good support team, and it makes it so much fun and worth it.
For people who don't run, how hard is this race?
It's really, I always say the downhill is the hardest. It absolutely destroys your quads, and then you have to run across downtown and into the wind today was tough, but so many, 500 people doing it today is amazing.
And what was the conditions like today? It's pretty garbage up here at the top, but what was it like for runners on the course?
I'm going to say it was garbage, and then take that as extra incentive for winning.
Put your hands together. Well done. Great run. Great run, Betsy. Well done. How many Cape Cabots have you done?
This is my 3rd, I think.
And how many times have you won the race?
I think I've won it once before. I was either first in my age category. Isn't that shocking? I should know that.
You won the 2025 version. How does that feel coming across the finish line?
It feels good. I'm not going to lie. I walked part of Signal Hill.
And you're still in the top 15 overall. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud.
How much training goes into competing in an event like this?
Well, I'm training for the New York Marathon, so I'm going in 2 weeks to run that. So I've been doing 70 to 100 kilometers a week for this. Yeah.
And now the marathon course is relatively flat compared to this.
It is, yeah.
What toll does this sort of course take on your body?
Well, it's great strength training, really. Sometimes they say that all you have to do is run the hills to do your strength training for the week. So I guess I did that this week.
I'm just happy to be able to do it, right? Yeah, because every year I think that this is my last year because I won't be able to do it again, but my God, I feel all right. Stiff legs, and cold, man. I feel good, and I'm glad I inspire people. It gets them out, and maybe get more people to run than that, by being old.
Well, the Blue Jays beat the Seattle Mariners last night in the Game 3. At 3 games apiece. There we go. At 3 games apiece. Game 7 goes down in Toronto tonight, starting at 9:30 Newfoundland time. And coming up a little later in the show, we'll hear from an excited local Jays fan. A man wielding a gun on George Street early Sunday morning has been arrested. Around 1:45 a.m., police officers in the area were approached by people who described a man with a gun who had fled the area in a taxi. Police located the cab in the area of Garrison Hill and Queens Road, and the suspect jumped out of the vehicle and tried to run from police. Officers quickly took the man into custody and found a loaded gun that they allege the man threw away during that chase. The man appeared in court today on 14 charges, most of which are firearm related. And the RNC is once again looking for more information on a fire in Kitiviti this past summer. The fire in July destroyed 2 historic fishing stages and damaged a third. Police say it was suspicious, and investigators have not been able to determine the cause. The RNC is asking anyone who could help the investigation to come forward. Well, the Blue Jays are continuing their winning streak, and tonight it's Game 7 in the ALCS against the Seattle Mariners. The winner moves on to the World Series. Ahead of that game, a Blue Jays superfan from this province talks about his devotion watching every game from day one.
Well, what a series this is turning out to be. The Toronto Blue Jays won in Toronto last night, springing back to life in Game 6 of the American League Championship Series. The Jays pulled out a 6-2 win against the Seattle Mariners, and that means they'll play for a winner-take-all Game 7 tonight. How long have you been a Blue Jays fan now?
Well, really since day one. My dad and I watched the Blue Jays back in 1977. First game kind of with the snow on the field and the Zambonis trying to clean the snow off the baseball field at Exhibition Stadium. So that's kind of a core memory I have from when I was a kid. But I suppose I really started tuning in, kind of in my high school years when I was around 1984, and the Jays had really started to get good then, and so. Really, since that time, it's been a long time, and been 40 years since 1985, since the last Game 7 that the Jays have had in the playoffs. Basically, that happened 40 years ago, and that was a back-breaking loss for the Jays. And back in 1985, I remember that game really well.
Wow, so this could be a big one then.
Yeah, it could be a big one. Jays haven't been in the World Series since '93. Yeah. So everyone is pretty excited about that prospect, and they have a good shot. It's a really strong team. They got some great players. They got Vladimir Guerrero, obviously, having an incredible postseason, and they play well. They play good defense, and they don't give away a lot of outs. If you look up stats and things like that, when a team forces a Game 7 at home, and when in a game they played at home, about 78% of the time, that team wins the next game, based on probably about 40 years or so of postseason stats. So yeah, it looks really good, and Jays have a great team, so everyone's pretty excited.
Jeffrey Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre took her own life earlier this year, and tomorrow her words will be published in a posthumous memoir she wrote before her death. Some details have been made public, and the royal family is bracing for more fallout. The CBC's Julia Chapman has the latest from London.
Palace insiders will be holding their breath ahead of tomorrow's publication of Virginia Giuffre's memoir. She accused Jeffrey Epstein of trafficking her to rich and powerful men, including Britain's Prince Andrew. The king's brother denies this and says he has no recollection of ever meeting Giuffre. Now, some members of the media have already read the book and describe it as courageous, harrowing, and important. It's not expected to contain any bombshells about Prince Andrew or any other alleged abusers, but it's the detail and the context that will give a fuller picture of Giuffre's difficult life and of the powerful world of abusers that she briefly inhabited. Perhaps in anticipation of the book coming out, Prince Andrew last week said he was giving up his titles, including the Duke of York. But some members of Parliament here want to formally remove them with legislation. An MP for York says many people in her constituency don't want to be associated with Prince Andrew anymore. Police are also investigating new allegations made by a newspaper over the weekend. The Mail on Sunday reported that Prince Andrew asked his taxpayer-funded police security to find information about Virginia Giuffre in an apparent attempt to smear her. He hasn't commented on that accusation. All of this threatens to overshadow King Charles's state visit to the Vatican this week. He'll become the first British monarch to pray with a pope since the creation of the Church of England. It's a historic moment, and the royal family will be hoping it can push Andrew out of the headlines. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
The largest and most famous museum in the world remains closed for a second day after a brazen heist. On Sunday, thieves broke into the Louvre in Paris in broad daylight while visitors were inside, and then got away on motorcycles with several priceless pieces of French history. Chris Brown has more.
To Louvre tourists, it seemed incredulous that it only took thieves 7 minutes to break in and make off with what amounts to France's crown jewels.
I was just shocked. It feels like a museum like this would have the security that would stop something like that.
I think the French people feel like they've been robbed, said Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin, as the audacity of the theft and what he called the deplorable image it gives of France sunk in. 4 thieves, apparently dressed as construction workers, first used a ladder to climb up the outside of the building and then powered glass cutters to get in through a window to the Apollo Gallery.
The fact that it was done in daylight is also astounding, but if you look like you belong, you belong. So I guess they used that rule.
The only clue that they left that should have raised a red flag was that the workers were working on the museum on a Sunday in Paris. Nobody works on Sunday in Paris at 9 a.m.
The thieves were reportedly unarmed, but threatened staff before smashing glass cases and making off with 8 items, including necklaces, earrings, and a brooch. Some of the jewelry belonged to French royalty, others to the wife of Emperor Napoleon.
And once they're been cut into smaller jewels, the deed is done. It's over. Well, we'll never see these pieces again intact.
So, cracking the case fast is essential. Suddenly, museums everywhere are worried.
They are afraid that local thieves will think, well, you know, they took it off with the Louvre, let's try our local museum. So that's the biggest fear now in the museum world.
More than a century ago, a decorator hid in the Louvre overnight and walked out the next morning with the Mona Lisa under his apron. It was recovered 2 years later when he tried to sell it. Investigators will hope they get a similar break with this robbery. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Well, as flu season begins, a national advocacy group for seniors is speaking out about the differences in access to vaccines across the country. The group says where you live can greatly impact your ability to get a shot. Shayna Luck has the story.
Debbie Lewis-Boyce takes care of herself. Now retired from a career in healthcare, she goes to the gym in Halifax regularly. And on this day, on her way home, she stopped in to get her annual flu and COVID vaccine.
I'm very much pro-preventive healthcare. I've seen the repercussions of people that haven't taken care of themselves. And if they don't take care of themselves, they can't take care of their families.
This is the start of Nova Scotia's annual flu and COVID vaccine campaign, a busy day of appointments for pharmacist Jamie Flynn.
They signed up this first day that the system went live, and so I've got people that are very interested in preventative health in now.
But not every province covers the same vaccines in the same way. Seniors advocate Laura Tamblin-Watts says Atlantic Canada has made strides in covering more vaccines for the older population. She says that's cheaper for the healthcare system long term.
And so for areas that are really under strain, putting adult vaccination to the fore is the cheapest and most effective thing you can do to relieve that strain.
CanAge, a seniors advocacy group, just released a report card on vaccines for people over 50. Provinces like PEI and Nova Scotia scored highest, but some Western provinces and territories lost points for gaps in coverage for diseases like shingles and RSV. And Alberta and Quebec lost points for introducing a charge for COVID-19 vaccines this year.
The troubling divide is when we're seeing jurisdictions like Alberta take steps in the wrong direction.
Bill Van Gorder says he's seeing Atlantic seniors take advantage of free vaccines, and particularly shingles.
They're having to make decisions on what gets paid for and what doesn't, and many people had decided to not get their vaccines because they couldn't afford them.
And as the cost of living increases, Van Gorder says free vaccines will become more important to keep Canadian seniors and the healthcare system in better shape. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
For many Canadians, it's a rite of winter heading south. But this year, some snowbirds are reporting there's a new element to the tradition: photographing and fingerprinting at the border. The CBC's Sophia Harris has the story.
Snowbird Steve Blair says he had an unusual experience when crossing the U.S. land border this month for his winter stay.
He just said, we're going to take your picture and your fingerprints now, and it's going to be $30.
Were you surprised?
On the fingerprints and on the photo, yes, I was.
It's part of the new registration requirement for people visiting the U.S. for 30 days or longer. Air travelers are typically registered automatically, but many land travelers are not. So they must ensure they get the job done. U.S. Customs and Border Protection told CBC News Canadians who register at the border will be charged $30 U.S. each and will be photographed and fingerprinted to enhance border security and verify travelers' identities.
They have the full discretion on how they want to inspect and admit Canadians.
But this U.S. immigration lawyer says Canadian travelers have another option. If the border officer allows them to enter without registering, they can fill out this G-325 immigration form when in the U.S. to satisfy the requirement. There's no fee and no fingerprinting.
If you're savvy with a computer and you don't want to deal with the land port of entry or a CBP officer, don't be too intimidated by the G-325. It's not an overly cumbersome application.
He said, we're going to take a photo and then we'll do your fingerprints.
But not everyone may get a choice, this snowbird says. An officer registered her and her husband at the border and offered no alternatives.
And it wasn't like, would you like to have your photograph? Would you like to have your... That was nothing. It was just, this is the way it's done. And you just do it and you fall in line. And we want to keep coming back every year, so we just did it, right?
For some snowbirds, the added scrutiny may serve as a deterrent if they were already on the fence about visiting the U.S. due to its trade war with Canada. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, many cities across India are doing justice to the other name for Diwali, the Festival of Lights. Fireworks and sparklers are just one part of the celebrations. Millions of homes are decked with traditional lamps, with people dressing up and hosting lavish feasts, and friends and families exchanging gifts and sweets. According to Hindu legend, the festival marks the return of the deity Rama from exile after he vanquished the powerful demon king of Lanka. Time for a look at the long-range forecast now, and skipping ahead to Wednesday and the weekend.
Yes, we are. Already, I guess.
Already, yeah.
It's a bit unsettled weather-wise. Let's take a look at what's going on until we get into Wednesday. Tuesday evening, rather, into Wednesday. We have clouds moving in. And then we will see some shower activity pretty much across the board as we head through the day, along with some varying levels of cloud cover. Now, the temperatures are going to stay up, though. That is the good news for most of us anyway, across a good chunk of the island. Take a look at these daytime highs. We should be sitting somewhere in the mid to upper teens, but temperatures will start to drop across Labrador, particularly Lab West, or rather the north coast. You'll hover around 5 degrees through the afternoon. The rest of Labrador between 10 and 14 degrees. And then for the northern peninsula, you'll hover somewhere between 9, maybe even 10 degrees as your daytime highs. But again, we should see some sunshine in the mix there through the afternoon as well. As we take a look ahead to Thursday, we'll see this is when things will become a little bit more unsettled. So we'll be dealing with some periods of rain through the afternoon for most of us, especially up across Labrador and then across the island a little later in the day. But yeah, we definitely need this rain, so we'll certainly add to that number there as well. But daytime highs will be a little bit on the mild side again. So between 14 to 16 degrees across a good chunk of the island. Now for the northern peninsula and along the strait there, between 10 to 11 degrees is your daytime highs, and pretty much a carbon copy forecast as far as temperatures go for the rest of the Big Land. 5 degrees for Nain, and then somewhere between 11 to 13 for the rest of Labrador. Now, as we look ahead to the long-range forecast, most areas for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland anyway will start to see those periods of rain later on Thursday and then continuing Friday into Saturday. But again, well above where we should be sitting this time of year, and our overnight lows as well. Only between 10 and 12 degrees through the overnight period. So certainly mild air. We will see those overnight lows drop a little bit, though, for central and western Newfoundland as we get into next week. But we're also looking at a bit of unsettled weather there. Most of us will be seeing rain along with temperatures between 10 to as much as 16 degrees, but dropping by the time we get into Saturday. And then for Labrador, overall, you'll be staying above where you should be sitting this time of year, between 11 to 12 degrees. Rain really in the forecast. We'll see a little bit of sunshine in the mix by the time we get into Friday and Saturday. But for Western Labrador, different story. Temperatures are going to be a little bit on the cool side, especially Friday night. There's a chance that we'll see a few flurries in the mix there as well, as you see your temperatures dropping 2, maybe 3 degrees. Our weather photo of the day taken on the Avalon in freshwater. So, my goodness, it's really beautiful. The colors are stunning this year. I can't even. But Eugene shared this great shot with us. If you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, we'd love seeing them. You can send them to my Facebook page or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Great shot, Eugene. It's the sugar, it's the sunshine, and
That's
it's
right.
the cooler temperatures.
It's the recipe.
The recipe for beautiful trees in the fall. We certainly got that this year. Thank you so much, Eugene, for sending that wonderful photo, and thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.